Welcome to the Three Martini Lunch. Grab a stool next to Greg Columbus of Radio America and Jim Garrity of National Review. Three Martinis coming up.
Hey, so glad you're with us for the Tuesday edition of the Three Martini Lunch. Grab a stool. A lot to talk about today. Good, and bad martinis. I guess the third one could really be described as crazy, too, and we'll get into all that. As you know, Jim Garrity is away. In his place today, we're very happy to have Jon Gabriel, the undisputed king of stuff, columnist for Discourse Magazine with the Mercatus Center, as well as the Arizona Republic, and the author of the smash hit novel, Sink the Rising Sun, a fantastic story of submarine warfare in the Pacific during World War II. So, Jon, congratulations on the success of the book, and it's always great to have you with us.
Oh, great to be here as well. Yeah, I'm still, and if anybody from Apple TV is watching, I'm still accepting offers for, any royalties, huge smash miniseries. Just let me know.
We can talk.
Well, as Jon has said, it's the best debut novel he's ever written. And if they were to turn it into a TV series or a movie, would you want to play one of the key roles, or would you just want to be like Hitchcock and be like the guy at the end of the bar?
Yeah, I think I'd be the cameo guy, or there's also this very crabby old Scottish man, and if I could nail that accent, I would be him, because he was the most fun to write.
Yeah, that's a great character. Absolutely great character. Well, speaking of great characters, let's get to our first good martini. And Louisiana Senator John Kennedy is not only good for a reliable vote on the right, he's also good for a good quip just about every time you see him in public, whether he's skewering a Democratic nominee for the federal bench or something else. Now, of course, it's Republican nominees, but he's never one to just say this is a good idea or a bad idea. He's always got some sort of folksy approach to making his point. And he was on with Sean Hannity, and the question was, what's going wrong with the Democrats? And somehow he was able to sum this up in less than 90 seconds. But Kennedy explaining what's wrong with the Democrats as only he can.
In terms of the Democrats, I've got a lot of friends who are Democrats, and they haven't asked me for advice. But if I did, I'd tell them, look, you just got to try harder not to suck. I mean, think about it. Over the past 4 years, the Democrats mismanaged Congress, they mismanaged COVID, they mismanaged the economy, they mismanaged inflation, they mismanaged the national debt, they mismanaged Afghanistan. More recently, in their opposition to President Trump and Mr. Musk, the Democrats have chosen to support the bureaucrats and the spending porn over the American taxpayer. Just like they support illegal immigration over the rule of law, just like they support transgender athletes over women's sports, just like they support Hamas terrorists over Israel. All Democrats are not like this, but the party is controlled right now by people who majored in online activism with a minor in puberty blockers. I know these people. They think men can breastfeed. They're triggered by race. They cry if you use the wrong pronoun. And most fair-minded Americans look at this and they go, these people are about 10 exits past normal. And that's what's killing the Democrats right now.
So, Jon, a couple things there. First of all, I want him to stay in office as long as possible because he seems to be right on just about every issue, but I also don't want the competition as a podcast host because I think he'd be really, really good at that. So, but we talked about messaging on yesterday's podcast. Part of it is having the right position, but the other part is being able to express it in a way that sticks. And John Kennedy does that about as well as anyone.
Yeah, it's really fantastic. I've actually heard people complain about his folksy style because they say he's actually very smart and highly educated. So I don't know why he talks like that. People can have regional accents and they are very intelligent as well. I'm sorry he doesn't speak like the Dons of Oxford, but he's from Louisiana, so you're going to have a bit of a drawl. But he really nails it. It just really comes down to just having this whole wokeness, and I know that's kind of a cliche now, but it just went so far, and people felt like they couldn't express normal opinions without getting HR breathing down their neck, friends calling them out, people trying to cancel them on social media. And so many of these things that are just simple common sense have been, you haven't been able to speak them out loud for several years. Some of us never stop, but a lot of people just want to avoid the hassle of all those things. And so it's not like, okay, this one specific policy or that one. It's kind of the entire National Democratic Party has just gone so far over the rails. And now all they can do is complain about anything Trump does. And it's like, okay, you guys are going to have to figure out what you're for again, because nobody's buying your complaints about Trump isn't doing this right or that right, because basically everything during the Biden administration was going wrong.
So is he right that it's not most of the party that's holding these radical positions, or is it the fact that most of the party has gravitated to these things and now they can't pull back from it? We just saw the DNC elections. They're not reevaluating anything on some of these issues where Trump keeps mopping up on 90-10, 80-20 issues. Or is it just a matter of fact of where the money comes from and they have no choice but to keep holding these positions?
I think any elected official or, party apparatchik, they're all kind of too far gone to be redeemed. But we all have Democratic friends, family members, things like that. They are talking about none of these fringe issues. They have legitimate complaints about, well, I don't like when the Republicans do this, or I think we should be more compassionate in this other area. But they're normal people and they have normal concerns. But I think when you're on a stage in the Beltway, you have to speak the approved language. And that approved language just doesn't sell with your everyday voter anymore.
There was the story we considered adding today, and I'll just mention it now, is that CNN did a focus group with some Arizona voters who had backed Joe Biden in 2020 but switched to Donald Trump in 2024. And much to the obvious dismay of Dana Bash as she was talking about the story, all of these people, that at least they had in this giant Zoom call, were not regretting their vote. They were happy with the issue in terms of how Trump was dealing with the issue that caused them to vote for him. And they were perfectly happy with the speed at which he was doing stuff. And so not only are the Democrats locked into these radical positions, they still don't quite understand where the electorate is on a lot of different things.
Yeah, they really don't. And that CNN Zoom call was pretty interesting. I live in Arizona. But yeah, it just included people, different age groups, demographic groups, male, female, different races, different socioeconomic classes. And everybody's like, yeah, I used to support Biden. I voted Trump this last time. He's doing great. And they all had a different reason why he was doing great. But it was pretty remarkable. And just the grave look on the face of Dana Bash was entertainment in and of itself. But this is what people voted for, and I don't really understand this Democratic tendency just to go back to the 2016 playbook and just every time Trump breathes, they're against breathing all of a sudden. Guys, come on. You have your own problems, and you better start sorting those out because just nobody's buying this #Resist Act. We just went through this a few years back.
Dana Bash, not the best poker face. I remember distinctly the night of the 2016 election, and it was like 2:00 in the morning. But she was the one who got the message on the set of the CNN election night coverage that Hillary had conceded. And Wolf Blitzer threw it to her, and she's like, I need to confirm this. I'm not ready to go with this yet. So he talks about something else, throws it back to her, and she looked like she was in pure shock, even though the numbers had been trending that way all night, but she had to actually spit out the words that Hillary had conceded. And she did not look pleased, and she did not look objective at that moment. It was pretty obvious how she felt about that. But amazing stuff. Well, today, the 3 Martini Lunch, our podcast, is sponsored by BetterHelp. And one of the things that you want to have as you go forward in 2025 is clear boundaries, both in terms of the people you want in your life and the people that you don't. We hear a lot about the red flags, people that are not good for you in a variety of ways, and that could manifest itself in personal relationships, business relationships, whatever it is. And so red flags are the ones you want to avoid. But what about the green flags? Who are the people? What are the qualities that you want around you in all these different facets of your life? Those are worth exploring as well. And if you're unclear on exactly what you should be looking for or where you currently stand, maybe BetterHelp can help. BetterHelp is fully online, making therapy affordable and convenient, serving more than 5 million people worldwide. You can access a diverse network of more than 30,000 credentialed therapists with a wide range of specialties, and you can easily switch therapists anytime at no cost. So discover your relationship green flags with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/3ML to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/3ML. All right, Jon, on to our second good martini now. And just yesterday, Scott Bertram and I talked about southwest border illegal crossings absolutely plummeting in the early days here of the Trump administration. In fact, on Sunday, the total number on the entire southwest border was 229. Compare that with the 1,000, sometimes north of 10,000 that we were seeing daily in the Biden administration. But it's not just those numbers that are at issue here. Bill Melugin over at Fox News reporting on a story that combines a couple of things. First of all, the Trump administration's much tougher border policies, but also the work being done in terms of DOJ digging through the books and cutting off money to non-governmental organizations, which are often facilitating mass migration. So here is Melugin's report.
So this San Diego NGO says its shelter has had not a single migrant walk through its door since President Trump took office. They're now closing that shelter down and laying off more than 100 employees, they say, because of Trump's border policies and his ending of their federal funding. Jewish Family Service San Diego has been running a rapid response migrant shelter that offered migrants care packages, food, legal services, travel coordination, medical screenings, and immigration case management. FEMA records show they had been allocated $22 million last year, but the NGO says they've received none of that money. Jewish Family Service San Diego points the finger at President Trump, saying in part, quote, with migrants no longer able to use the CBP-1 application, the shelter has not received new families and individuals released from short-term federal custody.
So, Jon, a couple of issues here. First of all, I don't think it's just the app, but it could be a factor in the number of people coming, which is 0 starting on January 20th. But also, why are they providing legal services and helping people move around the country at potentially taxpayer expense? That's quite a discrepancy on whether or not they're receiving the $22 million that they were supposed to be getting from us taxpayers. But what do you make of that? And what are you seeing in Arizona, where you live, which is also a border state?
Yeah, I know we've had similar reports in Arizona, and border contacts, of course, are way down, as you've noted. Various times of year, you'll have heavy influx, say, in the Texas sector or between Yuma and like the center of California. It kind of varies based on the temperatures, where the Border Patrol is hanging out those few months, but it has just dropped all over the place. And what's strange about this, too, is this is supposed to be in San Diego a relief organization that's complaining that it doesn't have enough people suffering for it to, quote unquote, help. They should be happy that they have less of these destitute migrants needing food and clothing and transportation. That's actually a good thing. But means the country's functioning more logically. And they seem deeply upset about it. And the fact that they were getting $22 million from our government to assist people breaking our laws. I'm sorry, that's why Trump got elected. I'm sorry, complaining that the money spigots have been shut off to assist criminals. That's what Americans want. We're tired of it. And you would want to see any kind of organization that's supposed to, deal with this influx of law-breaking and illegal people coming in. Frankly, I'm glad that they've run out of customers.
Well, it's not rocket science, especially in your state, where Biden won narrowly in 2020 and Trump won by a larger margin, was it 3 or 4 points here in 2024? And it's basically this issue, right? I mean, people were sick of the massive influx that Biden was at least allowing, if not encouraging to happen with his refusal to enforce the border. And I think it was a Newsweek column written by an official from Yuma, might have been the mayor, saying how things just on a switch changed on January 20th, and the community is completely different in a good way over the last few weeks.
Yeah, and Yuma, Arizona is a perfect example. They were just getting pummeled with their hospitals were almost being shut down. They were so overcrowded. People needing basic prenatal care had to go to hospitals in either Phoenix or San Diego because there weren't enough beds at the single hospital in Yuma. Their community was really just ravaged, and they have been complaining to Washington. It's traditionally been about 50-50 red versus blue. It is a heavily Hispanic city. We've been there many times. And they have just been screaming in unison, regardless of party, you have got to deal with this problem, Washington. And they are just downright thrilled that Trump has done this. They finally kind of have their public services coming back online. They can use their own hospital instead of they were medevacing women who were trying to give birth. They would medevac them out to about 140 miles away to Phoenix here. That's just untenable.
If the Democrats are still mystified by what happened, it's not because people suddenly fell in love with Donald Trump. It's because they knew he would do something about the situation that's affecting their communities. It's basic blocking and tackling, right?
Yeah, completely.
Well, so far so good, it seems, on border policy. I know Tom Homan's still frustrated about leaks happening with deportations and ICE raids and so forth. So we'll see if things can get cleaned up on that front as well. All right, John, on to our final martini, our bad martini for today. And lots of political drama happening in New York City, which also happens to be an election year here, 2025. Eric Adams is the current mayor. He was elected 4 years ago, embattled ever since. He's complained to the Biden administration over all the illegals that Texas was sending them and so forth. And so in recent days, the Justice Department under Trump decided to drop the case against Eric Adams as it related to corruption, taking money from the Turks in order to open the Turkish consulate on time and ignoring the fire codes and all that sort of thing. And now Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York, is contemplating whether or not to remove Eric Adams from office. In her statement, Kathy Hochul says, "Earlier today, I spoke with First Deputy Mayor Maria Torres Springer to express my gratitude for her years of service to New York City. She, along with Deputy Mayors Ann Williams-Isom, Meera Joshi, and Chauncey Parker, have been strong partners with my administration across dozens of key issues. If they feel unable to serve in City Hall at this time, that raises serious questions about the long-term future of this mayoral administration. I recognize the immense responsibility I hold as governor and the constitutional powers granted to this office. In the 235 years of New York State history, these powers have never been utilized to remove a duly elected mayor. Overturning the will of the voters is a serious step that should not be taken lightly. That said, the alleged conduct at City Hall that has been reported over the past 2 weeks is troubling and cannot be ignored. Tomorrow, I have asked key leaders to meet me at my Manhattan office for a conversation about the path forward with the goal of ensuring stability for the city of New York." So one of the people pushing for Eric Adams to be out is Richie Torres. He's a congressman from New York City, and he says Hochul really has no choice.
Look, the governor who has the power to remove the mayor faces a simple test. Is she going to stand by idly while the Trump administration attempts a political blackmail of the mayor and attempts a hostile takeover of New York City's immigration policy and law enforcement policy? We need a mayor and a governor who are willing to stand up and protect the interest of New Yorkers from the worst of a Donald Trump presidency. We have too much at stake. New York City receives $10 billion from the federal government. New York State receives $100 billion from the federal government. We need strong leaders who are willing to fight for New York.
So, John, here's my theory on this. Andy McCarthy of National Review Online, former U.S. attorney, has said that Democrats prosecute other Democrats only if it helps other Democrats. And that's why, while Adams is probably guilty of the corruption with the Turkish government, he was only charged by the Justice Department after he became a problem by complaining about the Biden administration's handling of immigration policy. And so Despite all that, the charges come forward. Kathy Hochul's not thinking about removing Adams then. It's only now that the Justice Department has dropped the case against Adams, and there's plenty of questions about whether that should have happened because the charges are legit. The motivation for them is certainly under question. But then Adams very quickly says, you know what? I'm going to cooperate with ICE. I'm not going to obstruct them. In fact, I'm going to help them get criminal illegals out of our community. And it's only then that Kathy Hochul is saying, you know what, this is an untenable situation. Eric Adams has got to go. How do you see it?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It's just everybody can see what's going on. They do not want him to enforce federal law or even participate in the federal agencies who are, trying to tamp down this illegal immigration problem. It's really ludicrous. And for New Yorkers to be complaining and saying, we can't have a mayor who doesn't fight for the people of New York by opposing the federal government. Sorry, you are part of the United States. You are subject to federal immigration laws. And we do not need mayors, governors, etc., opposing the federal agencies on this. If you think that the policy is wrong, you can take them to court. You can fight them that way. But I think this law is pretty well settled. They've just tried to avoid enforcing it for a very long time. And it's really ludicrous with all the problems that the state of New York has for their governor to be worried about this silly partisan politics. How about trying to elect someone? The elections are coming up soon. How about promoting your own candidate instead of trying to take out this lame duck, obviously an odd duck of a mayor, who's kind of strange. Every once in a while you say something that conservatives are like, wow, that's pretty good. Good for you. And a lot of other times people are just scratching their heads because they don't understand what he's talking about. So it's obviously a political hit job on him. They don't want him working with the Republican president in D.C. It's pretty ludicrous. Everybody can see what the Democrats are trying to do here. They're trying to subvert the federal law that the American people voted for. A
common theme as we go through all this, Democrats just continuing to double down on policies that the American people do not want. Trump didn't win New York City. He didn't win Chicago. But if you look at his numbers compared to previous elections, he's doing better there because these people are seeing their communities fall apart. The other problem here, Jon, and this I think was going to be a problem whether Adams stays or goes here at the hand of Kathy Hochul, is the return potentially this year in the mayoral race of New York's former illustrious governor, the less than honorable Andrew Cuomo. He of the quick hands, the COVID nursing home scandal. He who said during the first Trump administration that America was never great. Are you ready for this potential return of Andrew Cuomo?
I am absolutely not ready. Andrew Cuomo, too. It was like Mario Cuomo before him. It was just always this. The Democrats were always like, oh, why don't they run for president? Why don't they run for president? I think they never ran for president seriously because they didn't want to be looked into too much. Because, again, it's kind of like we always talk about Illinois politics, Chicago politics, and how dirty they can get. And New York, just for me on the other side of the country, I'm no expert in New York politics, but if you look at the goings on in Albany, in New York City, it kind of has this I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine kind of policy that's kind of unwritten. If you start to oppose them politically, then they will start prosecuting you for probably the many crimes you're guilty of. Cuomo, please just stay away. We don't want to deal with you. Chris Cuomo, same with you. Just all of you, just pipe down. Give us a few years to recover from the last time you did have any power.
Please stay away. There was talk, you probably remember this, in 2020, when Biden was already stumbling rhetorically and otherwise, that, because Andrew Cuomo is the fad of the day because of his daily COVID briefings and so forth early on in 2020, maybe there can be a swap out for Andrew Cuomo at the 2020 convention if Biden trips all over himself. They didn't do it that year, obviously, but they tried it again in 2024.
Right.
And that obviously didn't work. But my favorite part of Andrew Cuomo might be when he was when the allegations were piling up in the groping scandal, and he says, no, nothing inappropriate. I'm Italian. It's misunderstood.
Hey, Abbondonza, mangia, everybody. Hey, I'm Italian. It's just like, okay, calm down, Chef Boyardee. That does not, groping is not part of the natural culture. Sorry. You can see that sometimes in movies from the 1970s. You don't need to behave the same way.
On that note, Jon, have a fantastic day. We'll talk to you soon.
You too. Thank you.
Jon Gabriel is the undisputed king of stuff. He's a columnist for Discourse Magazine at the Mercatus Center. He's also a columnist with the Arizona Republic. And he is the author of the smash hit novel Sink the Rising Sun, ordered on Amazon or wherever you get your books right away. I promise you, you will not be disappointed at all. I'm Greg Corombos of Radio America. Thanks for being with us today. Thank you for subscribing to the 3 Martini Lunch. If you don't already, please do that. Tell your friends about us. Thanks for your 5-star ratings and your kind reviews. Please keep those coming. Get us on your home devices. All you have to say is play 3 Martini Lunch podcast. Follow us both on X. He's at XJon, EXJON. I'm at Greg Corombos, and of course, Jim is at Jim Garrity. Thanks again for being with us today. Join us again on Wednesday for the next 3 Martini Lunch.